Well, a perfect storm of high interest rates, cost increases and a worker shortage has made household renovations a nightmare lately. But the squeeze is showing some signs of slowing. New data revealing a 14% increase in tradies looking for work. Hallelujah. Let's bring in tradesman Robert Shaw now from Perth. Robert, good morning to you. Does that speak to your experience? How are you going finding workers at the moment?
Morning, Sylvia. Yes, it's been a sort of a struggle over the last few years, but it's starting to ease, but it's still not back to normal. It's a long way from what it was 4 years ago.
One of the big issues in construction has been the cost of materials. What are you seeing happening there? Is there any reduction happening?
It's eased. The escalation's slowed down, but certainly no reductions as yet. On a couple of items, yes, we've seen a little bit on timber and steel, but it hasn't gone back down, and I don't know if we'll see it going back to what it was.
Gee, that's a worry. So aside from that, what are some of the other big barriers that you face in getting projects done on time and on budget?
Well, obviously material supply is one thing, and that's certainly got a little bit better, but in relation to the trades, which we talked about earlier, it has got slightly better as far as trades go. It depends on where you are operating at in Australia, so it does differ, but certainly, and what stage the project's at. So if you're on finishing trades at the moment in some states and territories, it's certainly a lot harder because there's more demand if a lot of people doing that at the same time around the country. You
know, renos are one thing, but we desperately need more housing supply at the moment. We need new homes. What kind of support does construction companies like yours need to get moving?
Well, I think it is about making sure, obviously, to do our part for the economy and produce the houses we need over the next 5 years, 1.2 million homes. We certainly need a good workforce, and right at the moment, that's been depleted over the last 4 years for whatever reason. But right now we need, obviously, and some of the, I guess, the immigration's great, but not all those immigrants that come into Australia are ready for our construction industry and fit for purpose. So we need a lot of subcontractors rather than employees, which would certainly ease the pressures.
It's a slow burn, isn't it? We appreciate your insights, Robert. Thanks for joining us.
Well, some of Australia's biggest companies are set to report their profits this week, giving investors an insight into the health of the economy.
Let's bring in investment portfolio manager Junbei Liu now. Good morning.
Hey, Junbei.
Good morning. Which companies will we be hearing from? Which ones are you most interested in this week?
Look, this week actually quite a few large ones. We got the Woolworth, we got the Qantas, as well as we got the BHP. Now, BHP will be very interesting. On Tuesday, we'll hear from its result. Just given in the last couple of weeks, we have heard some really bad news out of China, and particularly last week, we've seen Evergrande's file for Chapter 11 protection. So, you know, in the US, so, you know, the Chinese economy clearly is not doing well, and we do want to see what is really happening in with our big miners.
So the kind of results you'd be looking out for?
Yeah, so look, we're looking for a reasonable result, but they will point to quite a meaningful increase in costs, and they will be very, very cautious. We have seen the iron ore shipment has been the lowest in 10 years more recently, so the outlook guidance is going to be very weak for the next 12 months, just because we don't know what Chinese government is going to do. We need that stimulus.
You've got some fairly deep contacts in the government, though, over there. When's the stimulus package coming?
It's coming. Bad news is good news now, so it's coming.
Very good to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has struggled to recall the price of petrol amid a major speech about cost of living priorities. Joining us now to discuss today's headlines is Tasmanian Senator Jackie Lambie and Melbourne Lord Mayor Sally Capp. Good morning to you both. Jackie, you first. Is the PM a little out of touch, do you think?
Oh, how often do you think the PM has to go and refuel his car? You know, so I think, but they're actually off because there's another 10 or 15 cents out in those rural and regional areas. It's really starting to bite. You know, once it hits that 2.10, 2.15, it is really, with the cost of living out there at the moment and the price of fuel, it is just shocking. I can tell you, people are really finding it quite difficult.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's one thing to go after him, you know, months and months and months ago before this really started to bite over these sorts of pressures. But, you know, it's been months now of cost of living pressures, and it's his job, I suppose, a lot of people believe, to be across what people are paying at the Bowser, what people are paying for milk and bread, because it is really crippling Aussie households, Sally.
It is, and to make the right decisions, you've really got to be well informed. I've no doubt that the PM stopped going in to do his own shopping some time ago, Sylvia, but nonetheless being across the fundamentals that are impacting people in our community day in, day out is absolutely imperative.
Well, meantime, on the front of the Oz this morning, you've got a group of powerful corporate leaders calling for a rise in the GST rate, warning failure to act would see the nation fall behind other countries. Sally, GST already sitting at 10%. Millions of Aussies, as we say, are already crippled by the cost of essential items. Would you back this?
Well, look, this is a comprehensive report, Sylvia, and it's also really looking into the long term for Australia, and we welcome reports like this. It's important that Australia remains competitive in terms of attracting global talent, attracting investment, but it also has to be balanced with the reality of the day-to-day. People have to be able to afford to live in Australia. I think the GST is a good mechanism because it's really user pays. But as always, the detail is going to be debated, and making sure that we apply some sort of equity argument to these long-term policies is imperative.
Jackie, a rise in the GST, good idea?
Absolutely not. Not with the cost of living pressures at the moment. That would just be the nail in the coffin. You wouldn't dare raise the GST. But I'll tell you what he can do. He can go back in and have a good look where that's distributed to when it comes to the states, because Tasmania itself over the next 4 or 5 years will be losing about $900 million, nearly $1 billion out of our GST, because it was changed by Scott Morrison. It really annoys me that Prime Ministers can just go in and change a number just like that, where states lose a considerable amount of money. Because I can tell you, nearly close to $1 billion for Tasmania over the next 5 or so years is really going to hit us. It's going to cripple us. So, you know, why don't you go back in, have a look at the GST, but putting any more than 10% on it at this point in time, it's just absolute. That would be a nightmare for people out there.
So property sales have rebounded over the weekend as the spring selling season fast approaches.
For more, we welcome back John Keogh, Economic Editor of the Australian Financial Review. Welcome back, our friend. Great to see you. How did auctions go over the weekend?
Good morning, Sylvia and Carl. And look, just before we get to the property auctions, despite having a great time in Europe over summer, I got to say I missed you guys. Carlos, I missed the 5 a.m. alarm clock going off to come on and speak to you, but also the gentle ribbings you give me, and I'm looking forward to more of them as the programs go on.
By the second.
Well, see what happens. You go on holidays, you come back, and property rebounds. The economy's going
You're
great.
a good luck charm.
Yeah, there's been lots happening. I mean, interest rates seem to have paused. Inflation's moderated. We've got a new Reserve Bank governor, and on the weekend, the property auctions, they gathered a new head of steam. It was the biggest weekend since before Easter, more than 2,000 sales. Wow. And a very strong 74% clearance rate. And you can see a bit of a dichotomy opening up, though, between Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide. They're all very strong in the auction clearance rates, mid to high 70% range. But some of the other capital cities, a bit softer. Perth, obviously, down are in the low 60% range, and also similar here in Canberra as well.
Still waiting for that volume to come back, aren't we? A major housing package was announced last week, as you know. I'm not sure whether that's going to fix the housing crisis short term, though.
Yeah, it's not a silver bullet in the short term, but I did think it was the right move from the Prime Minister and the state premiers to focus on supply. We've been banging on this program for a while, Carl, haven't we? But we've got to build more homes in this country. That goal to build 1.2 million more homes over the next 5 years. Look, it won't be easy because rates are high. Builders are going bust, but adding to supply, getting rid of some of the red tape and regulation on zoning and planning, rather than the sort of short-term populist stuff of rental freezes, rental caps, I think it's the ultimate move, but the proof will be in the pudding or the eating, with the state and local governments having to actually deliver on this.
The only person to ever go, talking of eating, to Europe and not put on weight.
It's all those stairs.
It's the secret of the Aperol Spritz, Carlos. One or two of those a day does
Just
it.
Aperols. Great to see you, mate.
About that one.
Welcome home, mate.
Thank you, John.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?